Let's go back to 1824, a pivotal year in the history of Southeast Asia. In London, a significant agreement known as the Anglo-Dutch Treaty was signed. This treaty was not just a simple document, it was a game-changer that would shape the future of the region. The treaty effectively divided Southeast Asia between two colonial powers, the British and the Dutch. This division was strategic, aimed at minimizing conflicts and maximizing control over trade routes and resources. As part of the agreement, the Dutch handed over Malacca to the British. This transfer was crucial because Malacca was a key port in the Strait of Malacca, a vital maritime route. This marked the official beginning of British rule in Malaya. The British flag was raised, and with it, a new era of colonial administration began. The British were keen on protecting their trade routes to the east. These routes were the lifelines of their empire, bringing in goods, wealth and influence. To secure these routes, they focused on key strategic locations like Penang, Malacca and Singapore. These ports became the hubs of British trade and military power in the region. Singapore, founded by Sir Stamford Raffles in 1819, quickly rose to prominence. Its strategic location made it an indispensable asset for the British. The bustling port of Singapore became a gateway to the riches of the East. Traders and adventurers from all corners of the world flocked to its shores, making it a melting pot of cultures and commerce. But the British ambitions didn't stop at the coast. They had their eyes set on the vast and resource-rich Malay Peninsula. The peninsula was abundant in resources like tin and rubber, which were highly valuable to the British economy. They saw immense potential in exploiting these resources. Using a combination of diplomacy and coercion, the British negotiated treaties with local Malay rulers. These agreements often involved promises of protection and development, but they also came with strings attached. Many of these treaties were signed under duress, effectively bringing more and more of the Malay Peninsula under British control. The local rulers found themselves increasingly dependent on British support. By the late 1800s, British influence in Malaya was undeniable. They had established a strong administrative presence and were the de facto rulers of the region. In 1895, the Federated Malay States were formed, comprising Perak, Selangor, Negeri Sembilan, and Pahang. This federation was a significant step in consolidating British control. Although these states retained their sultans, the real power lay with the British advisors. These advisors controlled the administration, economy and even the military, ensuring that British interests were always prioritized. The British were known for being organized. Their meticulous nature was evident in the way they structured their colonial administrations. They set up a system of government in Malaya, similar to the one back in Britain. This system was designed to ensure efficiency and control over the vast territories they governed. At the top was the governor of the Straits Settlements, based in Singapore. The governor held significant power and was the main representative of British interests in the region. He was in charge of all British territories in Malaya. His role was crucial in maintaining British dominance and ensuring that colonial policies were implemented effectively. Under the governor were British officials called residents and district officers. These officials played a pivotal role in the administration. They were like the eyes and ears of the colonial government, making sure things ran smoothly, collecting taxes, and putting British rules into action. Their presence was felt in every corner of the colony. They were supposed to talk to local Malay rulers, but the British always had the final say. This often led to tensions as traditional authority structures were undermined. The British also brought in their legal system. This was a significant change for the local population. This brought some order, but it also pushed aside traditional Malay customs. The new legal system was foreign and often confusing to the locals. British judges ran the courts, making sure everyone followed the new laws. Their judgments were final, and there was little room for traditional practices. This system made the British more powerful, but it also took power away from local rulers and made some people angry. The imposition of British rule and the sidelining of local customs and leaders led to growing resentment and resistance among the local population. The British loved Malaya not just for its strategic location, but also for its abundant natural resources, especially tin and rubber. These commodities were incredibly valuable during the industrial era. Tin was super important for factories, being a key component in various industrial processes, and rubber grew really well in Malaya's tropical climate, making it ideal for large-scale plantations. British businessmen rushed to Malaya to capitalize on these resources, setting up extensive mining and plantation operations. They saw immense profit potential in exploiting these natural assets. Big tin mines dramatically changed the landscape, and a large number of Chinese workers were brought in to work under tough and often dangerous conditions. These workers played a crucial role in the mining industry. Similarly, huge rubber plantations also transformed the Malayan countryside. These plantations required a lot of labour and led to significant changes in the local economy and environment. To fund the infrastructure and administrative costs of these operations, the British colonial government started imposing various taxes on the local population and businesses. The biggest and most controversial tax was the income tax, introduced in 1948, mirroring the tax system in Britain. This tax was met with significant resistance from the local population. Many people felt this tax was unfair and burdensome, leading to widespread dissatisfaction and protests. The local population saw it as another form of exploitation by the colonial rulers. To facilitate the export of tin and rubber, the British also invested in building extensive infrastructure, including railways, roads and ports. These developments were crucial for moving resources efficiently. As a result, Malaya's economy underwent a significant transformation, becoming heavily focused on the extraction and export of tin and rubber to Britain. This shift had long-lasting impacts on the region's economic landscape. British rule brought big social changes. Lots of Chinese workers came to work in the mines and plantations. Indians came too, mostly as workers and government clerks. This mix of people created a diverse society, but also some tension. The British wanted some local people to help them run things, so they started schools. There were Malay, Chinese, Tamil and English schools, but not everyone had the same opportunities. English schools were seen as the best, but mostly only rich families could go. This made the gap between rich and poor even bigger. In the early 1900s, people in Malaya started to feel like they wanted their own country. British rule felt unfair, and people didn't like how their resources were being used. Education, surprisingly, helped these feelings grow. Learning about freedom and democracy, even in British schools, inspired new leaders. These leaders, many educated in Britain, came home wanting independence. When Japan took over Malaya during World War II, things really changed. The British lost, and this made them look weak. The war also helped different groups in Malaya feel like they belonged together, as they fought against the Japanese. After the war, lots of Asian countries wanted independence. The British, weakened by the war, knew they were losing control. In 1948, they created the Federation of Malaya, joining 9 Malay states and Penang and Malacca. But Malay nationalists didn't like this, thinking it was a trick to keep British control. But the push for independence got stronger. Tunku Abdul Rahman became a very important leader, bringing everyone together. He talked with the British, and in 1956 they agreed that Malaya could be independent. On August 31, 1957, Malaya became free. Tunku Abdul Rahman shouted, "Merdeka!" which means independence. A new country was born. British rule left a mixed legacy. They left behind a system of government like Britain's, but at first it was mostly run by Malay elites. The British systems and laws helped the new country get started. Malaya's economy still depended on tin and rubber. But the government knew this had to change. They made plans to build factories and rely less on selling just those resources. The British also left behind good roads, railways and ports. These were built for the British, but they helped Malaya too. British rule also changed society. Malaysia today is a mix of different people because of British immigration policies. This is good for culture, but it can also make it hard for everyone to feel united. The British education system also had a big impact. English became an important language, which helped different groups talk to each other. But the unequal school system created problems between rich and poor. You can still see British influence in Malaysia today. English is an official language, cricket is popular, and the legal system is based on British law. British rule in Malaya, which lasted over 100 years, changed the country forever. It was a time of big changes, with some good and some bad. The British brought their ways of doing things, both good and bad. They changed Malaya's economy, society, and who Malayans were. Today, Malaysia is a modern country, but it still deals with the effects of British rule. Things like creating national unity, helping the poor, and mixing old traditions with modern life are all part of that. But despite the challenges, Malaysia has done well since independence, showing how strong its people are.